Hello, and welcome to the first webinar on the Youth 1 Year Out Survey, better known as the YOYO. In this webinar, we will learn how to access the data collected from youth who exited high school in 2018 with an IEP in place at the time of exit. This data provides a picture of the post-school outcomes for these students and can inform the instructional decisions we make to support successful post-school outcomes. The YOYO also provides information on Indicator 14. During this webinar, we will cover where the YOYO data can be found, what information is provided online, and what additional information is available upon request. The YOYO data can be found at the KYPSO website at www.kypso.org. When you go to that link, you can find state results which are available for anyone. So if you have a parent or an agency that you work with, or just a public member who's interested in post-school outcomes, they can go to the website and look at the state results. If you want to find the results specific to your district or your regional educational co-op, you will go to the Data Collection and Reporting tab, and this section will require a login and password. Let's go to the KYPSO website and see what I'm talking about. Here we are on the home page for the Kentucky Post-School Outcomes Center, KYPSO. To find the state results, which are available to anyone, you go up to Data for Public Use and click on the tab. You will notice that there is data available from the past 3 years. We are interested in reviewing the data from the survey collected this past spring, so we will click here to view the 2019 statewide YOYO results. The 2019 YOYO results represent students who left high school in the 2017-2018 school year with an IEP in place at the time of exit and responded to the survey in the spring of 2019. Hence the name Youth 1 Year Out, or YOYO.
This page tells us that there were 4,493 students who exited high school last year with an IEP in place. And 2,480 of those students responded to the survey, which is a 55% response rate. The results are displayed in an education by employment table and show us that 17% of the students who responded to the survey went on to higher education, and 8.2% went on to other education. We also see that 43.3% were competitively employed, and 16.3% had other employment.
The definitions for each of these categories is presented below the table, right here. So you see the definition for higher education, other education, competitive employment, and other employment. Additional categories are included in the table and represent no employment and no post-secondary education. But the category we really want to focus in on is the box in yellow. This represents the percent of students who are neither employed nor pursuing further education. And this box shows us that over 30% of the students who exited high school with an IEP in place are unengaged in post-school outcomes. This is a cause for concern, but we can use information gathered in the YOYO to draw conclusions and develop some strategies for increasing post-school outcomes for the students in this category. Right underneath the table, you will see a list of filters which show what we are looking at in the table. The filters include gender, disability category, ethnicity, and the means in which students exited high school. We can go back to the top of the page and disaggregate the data using these different filters. Let's try it out. Let's go up to gender and let's look at females. One thing you will notice is that each time you choose a category and want to see the results, you must click on View Report, or your new display table will not appear. However, once it does, you can look down and notice that the filters tell us exactly what we're looking at. We are looking at all females in all disability categories, all ethnicities, and all means of exiting high school. So what we notice here is that the education totals are slightly higher. The employment totals just a little bit lower. And this right here shows us that about 5% more females are unengaged in post-secondary activities than the population as a whole. Let's go back up to the top and disaggregate the data in another way. Let's go back to all genders. And up here you'll notice it says null. In this program, null represents all. So you'll see all for ethnicity, all for disability category. Null on high school exit also represents all. Let's go to disability category and let's look at students with autism. Again, we have to hit that button, View Report, in order to see our new report. When we look at this category, 24.6% of autistic students who exited high school have gone on to higher education. 17.5% of those students are in competitive employment. When we go over here to no post-secondary education, no employment, we notice that there's a significant increase in the number of students who are unengaged. There are a variety of ways in which you can go through and disaggregate the data and see how various groups of students are engaging in the post-school outcomes. And so far, we have only looked at a single category at a time, but let's try out a couple of categories and see what different information we can surmise. So right now we have one category up, and that is students with autism. Let's look at how students have exited high school. So alternative diplomas, one way to exit high school, dropping out, aging out, or exiting with a regular diploma. Let's click on regular diploma and view report. Let's look at our filters down here. We are looking at all genders who have autism, all ethnicities, and have exited high school with a regular diploma. Now we notice our unengaged numbers have dropped. When it was strictly students with autism, but all categories of exit, it was 40-something%. It has dropped to 32.7%. So exiting high school seems to have a little bit better post-school outcomes. Now let's look at students who exited high school with an alternative diploma who have autism. Now we'll notice that our unengaged in post-secondary activities has jumped considerably to 66.7%. So in looking at this data, is something we'll want to go back and analyze a little bit more in detail and maybe think about some instructional decisions. We'll talk about that in webinar 2. All right, let's go back to the top, the table back where it was. I'm going to click all students, all disability categories. Can do all means of exiting high school, and that's where we go to null. And so we have null, all, null. Okay. You can come back to this table later and explore the data some more. Now let's see how to find the specific co-op and district data. We will go back to the home page for KIPSO. Maneuver your mouse to the left column and click on Data Collection and Reporting. This will take you to the login page. If you have a login and password, go ahead and sign in. If you do not have an account already set up and you are a director of special education in a district, a co-op director, transition consultant, or low incidence consultant, you will need to go to the link at the bottom of the box that says click here to register. The words click here are in blue. This will take you to the registration page. Once you have completed that page, you will receive an email confirmation of your account. You will also want to email Tony Lobianco telling him your name, position, and that you have registered for a YOYO account. This will help ensure you are assigned the correct access level. If a district has a specific point person for transition, other than the DOS, then the DOS needs to contact Tony to confirm this person should have access to the data for the district. This also applies to co-op directors if someone other than a transition consultant or low incidence consultant is requesting an account. If you have forgotten your login name or password, you will click on Forgot Password. If you have any problems with registration or retrieving your password, you can also email Tony or myself, and we will gladly help you. Here's the information for emailing Tony. Both of our emails are provided at the end of the PowerPoint as well. Once you have logged in, you will see this page for your region or district. This is the only table that specifically represents Indicator 14 information. Students are counted in one category and carried forward with that category. For example, if a former student is going to a 4-year college, he or she is counted in 14A, higher education, and then carried forward in 14B and 14C. But what if a student is doing both, going to a 4-year college and is competitively employed? Again, he or she is counted as higher education and then carried forward in 14B and 14C. If a former student has both a full-time competitive job and is attending a 1-year training program, he or she is counted as competitively employed in 14B and carried forward in 14C. Students who are not participating in any type of post-school education or employment do not represent any of these 3 categories of Indicator 14. When you are finished reviewing the Indicator 14 information, you can go to the top of the page and click on Reports. This will take you to additional information, including data quality and the Education by Employment table. We will take a look at those 2 reports and then explore additional reports included online based on the additional questions asked in the YOYO survey. Let's start with data quality, as this is going to inform how we interpret our data, which will be discussed in much more detail in Webinar 2. First of all, let's look at the response rate. We saw earlier that the response rate for the state of Kentucky was 55.2%. This is a little low. A 60% or higher rate increases our reliability when drawing conclusions. Not that we can't draw conclusions with less, we just have to know how the numbers might impact what we can say about the data. Representativeness is important when we want to disaggregate the data and draw some conclusions. Knowing if a certain category has a higher or lower representation in the survey than in actuality can influence how we draw conclusions. We will analyze representativeness in Webinar 2 as well. The next report to check out is the Education by Employment table. We saw what this looks like for the state. Now let's see how it looks for the region and district. Here we can see how our students are doing across the state of Kentucky, in a specific co-op, and in our district. Now, as a co-op director, the top will be pre-populated with your co-ops, and that is the only co-op that you will be able to access. However, as a co-op director or co-op consultant, you will be able to disaggregate the data and look at specific districts in your co-op only. As a district dose or a district point person for transition, your information will be pre-populated with your specific co-op and your specific district along with the state. Districts will not be able to look at other districts' data. Co-ops will not be able to look at other co-ops' data. Hence the reason you must have a login and a password. So when you go into the KIPSO website and look up your data, take some time and explore this data. Once you have finished exploring the data in your Education by Employment table, you can go on and find additional information and tables to explore based on some of the additional questions asked in the YOYO survey, and include education details, employment details, 1 and 2, community participation, and dropout. There could also be additional data available to you based on additional questions asked in the YOYO survey. For instance, what is the main reason that you are not working or not working more hours? So if you look at your data and determine that your students' outcomes in employment are really low, then you might want more information and see if students gave reasons as to why they aren't working. Maybe they've all gone on to higher ed. Okay, that works. Or maybe there's some other barriers, and looking at these barriers can help with interpreting your data to make instructional decisions. All of these questions have given some interesting feedback that can be used to help interpret the data, and more so to help make some instructional decisions for improving post-school outcomes. Now you're ready to review your data. Go to kipso.org and go through all those different data reports. Disaggregate the information by ethnicity, gender, disability category, and by the way in which students exited high school. Play with the data, explore the data, and look at how the numbers change and what that might mean. When you are finished exploring the data, check out Webinar 2. In Webinar 2, we will go through and look at how to interpret the data. So you have questions about the best way to use this data. What kind of conclusions can I draw from this data? And how might that influence instructional decisions we make? Come to Webinar 2 and learn some more.
If you have any questions or encounter problems when reviewing your data, feel free to reach out to me, Lou Ann Land, or reach out to Tony LoBianco. Thank you, and have fun exploring the data.